Hello, my name is Jack Wilson. I want to welcome all of you to the 40th anniversary of the 1956 speed record at Bonneville. I hope you'll have as good a time as I'll have if I get to make it, and I sure planning on making it. I can tell you a little bit how all this started back in the winter of 53 and 54. Myself, Stormy Mangum, Pete Dalio, and Lieutenant Colonel George Caney was sitting around playing cards after the shop had closed on a Saturday afternoon. And the subject come up about the 181 mile an hour speed record NSU had just set. And George Caney made the statement that that record will stand forever. Stormy chuckled and said, I could beat it if I so a mind to, and the next thing you know, there was one hell of an argument. Stormy got mad, threw down his cards and said, I'll show you, and walked out and went to work on it. And that summer of 54 in August at Bonneville, Stormy wrote it himself at 154 and found out that it would work. He was using his cow trailer engine in it. And when he got home from Bonneville, he asked me to build him an engine and think about somebody to ride it. And I started to work on the engine, and naturally Johnny Allen was the most spectacular rider we had in the neighborhood, and he jumped at the chance. In 1955 we went and run 191 during Speed Week, and we was inspecting it after it's 191 mile an hour. It qualified for a record by 40 miles an hour. And the tires that Stormy had on it were Firestone off my Harley that he had that he'd skimmed, and they had lumps on it. Looked like a sack of potatoes instead of a tire. And Stormy wanted to know, what are we going to do about this? And I said, we're going to have to go home because we can't run this. And I said, Wilbur Cedar will be calling us. He was running Johnson Motors, secretary and treasurer of Johnson Motors. And Wilbur Cedar, he was a peach because Bill Johnson just gave him free hand, and he did what he thought was necessary for us to do it. Said he'll be calling us the time we get home, and sure enough, we had a call waiting on we got home, and wanted to know, how long will it take you to get back up there? Said, we can get back up there just as fast as you can get us some tires to run on. He said, well, I'll call you back. He called Dunlop, and by gollies, and it was the last part of September we was back and run 192 plus a little bit, and was very happy about it. In 1955, on the first trip up the flats, a friend of ours we'd known that we'd drag race against, named John Caffey from Omaha, Nebraska, come up to me and asked me, how fast do you think that contraption is going to run? And I said, well, anything over 181 will do. And I had to pick him up off the salt flat. He thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard in his life. He was down in the salt rolling. But after that 191 mile an hour pass, I could see him running a quarter mile away, coming over there pumping my hands. You done it, you done it, you done it. Made us feel pretty good. Went home and worked that winter, done some more work on the engine. When Stormy got home and went to work on this, he drew the plans out with chalk on his hangar floor at his airport, and it was a marvel. After all, he built the frame chassis out of a wrecked airplane, and I think it even had a few cultivator parts in it. And I gave him a wrecked frame from a Triumph that he fitted in it, and my responsibility on it were the wheels and the engine. And Stormy, and well, all of us threw in and helped a little bit, but Stormy was the main deal behind it. He even made models, helped him out the engine of his DC-3 and tested them, pulled them in water, rode it on the road to the astonishment of all of his neighbors. Went back in 56, unblown, normal aspirated 650, and engine on this. The only thing that wasn't stock across the counter that you could buy from Johnson Motors or Baltimore was the billet crank that Rich Richards, the fellow that held the Class A record that we took away with the Streamliner, had built. He had 3 of them built. It's made out of natural alloy, and he explained that it was the piston out of a steam locomotive. And he built 3 crankshafts and sold us one. That was the only thing that we didn't use that was standard cross-the-counter stuff, because a standard cross-the-counter crankshaft wouldn't stand the power what little we was putting out, which is around 100. It was pretty good at the time. See, we even used a Kickstarter to crank it. Used Amel 1 3/8 GP carburetors, 65% nitro and alcohol, and turned it about 7,600. Pulled a 2.33 gear on it. And in '56, we had a special gearbox that some of them at the Triumph factory made for us, unbeknown to Mr. Turner, or we probably wouldn't have got it. It was a wide ratio low gear with close ratio second, third, and fourth. Made it easier for the start, but it sort of staggered a little bit when we shifted from low to second. Such a jump in the ratio. Used Lucas Magneta, courtesy of Lucas, and a fellow named John Ball that worked for him. He was quite a character. Lodge spark plugs. The hardest part for us at the time was, at the time we run that, we only had a 20-minute turnaround. By the time we broke the last clock till we broke the first clock coming in, and you only had 20 minutes cool down, and that really wasn't enough for the stock pistons that I was using, and that's the reason we couldn't go faster than we really did. We'd use a set of RL 47s going down and a set of RL 49s coming back, and that was about the only thing we could do to help the little engine along. And I'll never forget the day that we turned the 214. It was, I mean, it was excited. Everybody was excited. We just felt like we was going to do it when we got there. Downtown Wendover, that's it, state line on the border of Wendover, Utah and Nevada. But boy, has it grown up nowadays. During that time, there's only 2 motels in the whole town, 3 restaurants. Now it's full of gambling joints with good restaurants and good motels. We even had to sleep on the ground a couple of years up there because there's no place. But the salt was good then. It's terrible now. That was the good old days when the salt was good and hard. It was 27% pure back in the 50s when we was going up there, and I doubt if it has any salt left in it today. But just enough to rust your equipment. At that time it was about 6 inches thick. Now in places there's nothing but mud. And I'm sure it'll never be the same again. I guess Johnny had to be an awful brave man to jump into something that had never been that fast and do it. And Johnny, he was quite a spectacular rider. He was Southwest champion for a while. He rode Triumph later. He rode Indian first. When he got on a bike, every spectator in the stand stood up and watched, because he was a wide open from start to finish. If he couldn't run wide open, he usually fell. And FIM never got around to approving none of her records. But when it was all said and done, Edward Turner and Wilbur Cedar both agreed that they got more publicity out of it being unapproved than they would have if it had been approved. And they had some mighty good people at Triumph that helped us. It wasn't Wasn't Mr. Turner. I don't think he liked the idea, but Ivor Davies, Sid Chilton, John Nelson, and Frank Baker really come through for us. And if some of the things they did, if Edward Turner had known about it, he'd have probably fired them. And I want to thank Roy Richards for giving the old streamliner a permanent home where everybody can see it, because it was hanging in the rafters here and full of rats when we dug it down to send it to him. And I am so sorry that Stormy and Johnny can't be at this celebration with the rest of us. It would make it one great day.